Have you ever wondered why the FDA will issue a warning letter after an inspection? I mean, they already gave you some 483s that you got to respond to. I mean, why issue a warning letter on top of it? If you don't already know, a warning letter is FDA's way of communicating the seriousness of the violations observed during the inspection. And they really want to make it clear to top management that if they don't take prompt action, the FDA may very well take further action against their firm. So after the inspection is over, the FDA needs to decide whether or not it warrants issuing a warning letter. And there's several factors that go into their decision-making process, including whether your firm has a history of serious violations or repeat violations, or perhaps they knew about a violation but didn't correct it, and also the product risk plays a large role in their decision-making process. One of the bigger issues is after the inspection and you're planning a response to the FDA, is that these factors that the FDA is using in their decision-making process are largely out of your control. A side point that I want to emphasize is that a warning letter not only communicates to your firm the seriousness of the violations. Since the FDA posts all warning letters to the website, it also makes it really easy for your competitors and your customers to see exactly the seriousness of the violations going on at your firm. So if you're going through a rough inspection, or maybe you just completed one, you need to be especially concerned that a warning letter may be on its way. So now you might be starting to think, is there any way I can avoid a warning letter? If you study FDA's manual covering warning letters, the seemingly obvious next step is to respond in such a way where you create an expectation that your firm is going to respond with adequate and prompt corrective action. You might be thinking, okay, great. I just need to write up a solid corrective action plan, send that into the FDA, and I'm going to be spared the warning letter, right? Well, it really is not that simple. One mistake I see is that a lot of firms spend all of their time writing up a corrective action plan. But the FDA says right in their manual that planned corrective actions or corrective actions in progress do not preclude the issuance of a warning letter. So if your response is heavy on planned corrective actions or corrective actions in progress, essentially it's all going to come down to convincing another human being to take a risk and not make a recommendation for a warning letter. Considering human nature is often to seek safety, if there are significant violations, the safest action is to go ahead and make the recommendation to issue that warning letter and then let the reviewing office make the final decision. That's not where you want to be. Since we don't want to leave it up to human nature, we need to understand FDA's purpose for issuing a warning letter is to achieve prompt corrective action. This leaves only one option to provide the best chance to avoid a warning letter, which is to provide evidence of adequate and prompt corrective action. So don't spend all of your time writing the corrective action plan. You need to dedicate resources to implement that plan and to gather the evidence ahead of your submission to the FDA. But how much time do I have? As you may know, you have 15 working days to respond to the violations from the inspection. Now, that sounds like a tight schedule, but it's actually tighter than that. The difficulty lies with the tight timelines within which the FDA must decide whether or not they're going to issue a warning letter. The inspection office must make a warning letter recommendation to the reviewing office within 15 working days of the conclusion of the inspection. And then the reviewing office has another 15 days which they need to make the final decision on whether to issue a warning letter. So as you can see, if you take the full 15 working days to respond to the FDA, it's likely that it's going to be too late for them to receive your response and consider it in their recommendation to the reviewing office. Another tip is don't wait until the inspection is over to start getting your corrective action plans together. You want to dedicate some personnel as soon as you start seeing things going not so well with the inspection. That way they can get those plans together, potentially even implement the corrective actions and get the evidence gathered and provide that evidence before the inspection's over. That's the best case scenario. Okay, I'll admit it. This approach is not easy. As I've discussed, the time frames are extremely tight. But I've successfully used this approach to avoid a warning letter. In one case, we were dealing with a repeat violation related to MDR submissions, and there was the potential for significant product risk. But we were able to get a team mobilized quickly, get that corrective action plan implemented, and submitted to the FDA within that 2-week time period. And we were spared a warning letter in that case. So in conclusion, to give your firm the best chance of avoiding a warning letter after a tough inspection, start your corrective action plan early, even before the inspection is over. Get a dedicated team together that can work on the corrective action plan, the implementation, and gathering all the evidence. Plan to make every effort to get all of the corrective actions implemented and have all of that evidence submitted as part of the submission back to the FDA within 10 working days. So to close it out, don't leave it up to human nature. Make every effort to get those corrective actions done. I know it's hard. I know it's a really tight timeline, but you really need to make every effort to get that done if you want to have the best chance to get yourself a warning letter after a tough inspection. If you have any tips or tricks about avoiding a warning letter, I'd certainly love to hear about it. It'd be great if you could share it in the comments for the rest of the audience. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video or you feel like you learned something important, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more content like this.